Let me get to our road case. So we started this last year. I like to take about 10, 15 minutes and bring up somebody who has an incredible story. And tonight's road case guest is truly that. He is an exceptional human being. And the way I discovered our guest was like many of you, 2 o'clock in the morning, you're on your phone before you go to sleep and something catches your eye. And my algorithm, because of what we do here at the space, a lot of what I have on my feed is philanthropic, charitable, really heartfelt stuff. And then the other 95% are bottle service waitresses in their bikinis. But this gentleman is a unicorn. He is a one of one. He is an incredible artist, singer, but most importantly, caregiver. And his story is so moving and so unique. And when I found out that he lives right here in Las Vegas, I said, you have to come on my show, and I want to help tell your story and share with the world and everybody watching who you are and what you're all about. Please welcome Chris Punsalan, everybody. Come on, Chris, get up here. Let's go.
Let's go.
Good to see you, brother.
Thanks for the intro.
Sit on the case. Yeah, hopefully I did you justice. All right, so listen, I want to keep this kind of loose because this is a pretty special moment for me. I'm a huge fan of yours. You have over 1 million followers on Instagram. And when I found out that you were born and raised right here, well, not born, but raised right here in Vegas, and your story is so special, I was like, will you come on Mondays Dark? And he agreed right away. So let's start from the beginning. Growing up in Vegas, wanted to be a musician, started creating content on social media, and things started happening, yeah?
Yeah, so I started creating videos in 2014 about my music journey. I wanted to blow up as a music producer, so I started making content in the best way that I knew possible. I was so enamored by the idea of filming something and then being able to watch it later. I was very inspired by my father. He had a camcorder glued to his hand growing up when I was a child, so being able to watch all these homemade videos of myself, I was inspired, and that started my content journey, and that slowly led into me finding success online. And while I was a junior in college, my grandma got sick, and I was faced with the decision whether we were going to send grandma to a home care facility or we were going to figure it out. And that figure it out meant that I was going to step up as a 22-year-old from my grandmother as her full-time caregiver, not knowing what being a caregiver was going to entail, not knowing that that was about to be 8 years of my life, but that's how it unfolded.
All right, so you jumped ahead of me, but we've got some footage. This is stuff that you can find on his Instagram channel and his YouTube channel. First of all, you are an incredible. First of all, let's talk about the Vegas Golden Knights hat that you're rocking. You let the cat out of the bag a little bit because I wanted to talk a little bit more about your childhood and your upbringing in Vegas, but let's just get right into it because this story is exceptional. Life happened, and you said it. You're like, I had to make a choice, and that's a choice that I don't think many young people, because you were at the time 22 years old, and we all have grandparents, and we have all said goodbye to our grandparents. Maybe some of you are still lucky enough to have them with you, but I can't imagine as a 22-year-old faced with that that option. Hey, I'm going to stop everything that I'm doing as a 22-year-old, and I'm going to focus on taking care of my grandmother. What was that like for you, that moment where you made that decision?
Well, I can look back on that, 9, 10 years later with relief, knowing that we were able to provide my grandmother with the best last chapter of her life. But as a 22-year-old, putting your whole life on hold for your grandmother, it's tough. And there were many times where I resented my grandmother and my situation and my family, and questioning, why is it that I'm the only grandchild out of 15 other grandchildren to decide to step up for my grandmother? And you talk about childhood. My grandmother raised me, and I'm a first-generation immigrant my family's from the Philippines. And so we all lived under one roof. We lived in a multi-generation home, and my grandmother raised me, and I felt like this was my way of saying thank you.
I'm keeping it in right now, just so you guys know. I'm on the verge. I have an amazing Filipino wife that I've been with for 20 years, so I know the culture. I've been in the garage until 6 in the morning playing mahjong. I get the food left out on the counter for 3 days, and we still eat it like it's no big deal. It is very unique, and I understand the multi-generation, and I also understand the pressure that you carry with you, as does my wife, to pay it back in a sense. When did you decide that there was a story to be told, and it was also a story that could be told on social media?
I don't know the turning point. I will say there was a lot of hesitation for me to share online, but I think I came to this point of, and if there's any caregivers in the room, I felt so isolated, especially as a young male caring for my grandmother. I would look around at all my peers, and all my peers are traveling and they're partying and they're doing all these things that you're supposed to do as a young adult in the city of Las Vegas. And I felt alone, and I felt like, I don't know, maybe if I make this video, that I'll find my tribe or my community online. And as isolated as I felt in the moment I posted that video, I was so surprised by the millions of caregivers who are in America living the same life that I was living. I think the last time I checked, there are 64 million family caregivers just in America. And for me to feel so isolated in my home, just resenting my situation and thinking that I'm the only one in the world who's going through this, I was very surprised to see that everybody goes through a situation like this at some point.
One of the posts that caught my eye early in my deep dive of following you is you would make comments where you would do a split screen on the post, and you would say something like, "I'm falling behind all of my friends," and then the next line would be, "But I'm, doing something for grandma." Talk about that challenge, because you just hinted at it a little bit. Hey, why am I doing this and everybody else is out doing these things? But what was the turning point that sort of got you out of maybe that dark place and into a place where you understood that you were doing something so special? Brother, you're one of one.
I think the first couple messages, I'll never forget this one message from this lady somewhere in America. She sent me a message saying, "I've been watching your videos, and my children watch them with me, and they have said that when I get older that they want to take care of me because of the videos that you put out there." And I'll never forget, you receive a message like that, and I'm reminded that the thing that I'm doing for my grandmother is not only helping her live her best last chapter. She didn't ask for the ailments. She didn't ask for osteoporosis. She didn't ask for dementia. She didn't ask for all these things to happen to her. And for me to help her just be a little bit more comfortable in her own home with family that she loves, it's the least that I could do for my grandmother. So getting that message and also having this realization that she didn't ask for this either. And if I can be just a small piece of her last chapter, what is 8 years to give to somebody? And in the hopefully many years that I live, what is that short season of my life really going to take away from me?
Bro, you're insane. I gotta pause because this is heavy. Come in here. Come. Yes, we need to break the ice. No pun intended. This is the Ring of Fire. Brother, cheers. Stray Pirate. Brother, cheers. Thank you for being here.
Yes, I do have napkins.
Thank you. Oh my God, that's delicious. What was the final chapter like, where you actually had to say goodbye and you knew that this chapter of your life, like you said, 8 years, was now closed?
It's funny because at my grandmother's funeral wasn't funny, but at my grandmother's funeral, I was so confused by my lack of sadness in the way that my other family members were experiencing. And I remember speaking to a caregiver shortly after my grandmother passed away, and she was like, "Oh, it's because you were probably experiencing anticipatory grief, where throughout the 8 years, you probably thought about your grandmother passing away. You probably imagined what it was going to be like for your grandmother to no longer be here." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're right." For 8 years, every single day, like clockwork, I would wake up 3 a.m., 2 a.m., wonder if my grandmother's still alive, run to her room, and I would go in her dark room to see if my grandmother's still alive. And I don't think that's a very common experience for young males growing up in America, to go into their grandmother's room and see if her chest is going up and down to just see if she's still alive. So I grieved the loss of my grandmother for 8 years, and when she passed, there was a sense of relief from me, and then immediately I felt guilty for not having this sadness or this sorrow that I thought I was going to feel, and feeling relief. I felt really, really guilty about that.
I'm honestly, I don't know about y'all, but I'm just trying to process this conversation in real time, and it is so remarkable. Like, what you are speaking is something that I have never heard, and it is such a privilege for hopefully all of you, for myself, to be sitting here listening to you as a young, just incredible human being, man. You are sensational. And, you know, I fear death, transparently. The thought of it scares me. The thought of saying goodbye to parents scare me. I can't imagine the day-to-day of your journey. It's remarkable, and it's inspiring. It's forcing me to take a deep dive and look at what scares me about that process, because you've just proven sitting here that there's absolutely nothing to be afraid of. And quite honestly, it's beautiful. What you've shared with us tonight is absolutely remarkable. And I've had some pretty special guests sit on this box. Brother, I don't think I've had a conversation like this since we've started this program, and I'm almost at a loss for words, and for me, that's fucking weird. What's next? Because I kind of know, but I want them to know what's next, because I knew something was going to come of this, and you were going to figure out some, I'm just gonna call it champion move, because that's what you've done. So tell everybody what's next.
Yeah, so like I said, my grandmother passed away in 2024, and I was lost and confused at what I was going to do with my life moving forward, and this company called Tender Care reached out to me. It's a company that connects family caregivers to elder care professionals, so an elder law attorney, a geriatric care manager, a firefighter. We have these tender IDs here where in case of an emergency, a firefighter can come in, scan this, and get instant access to your loved one's medical info, allergies, conditions, in a way where if your loved one cannot speak for themselves or you cannot speak for yourself, they can scan it and get all the info, and we give these out for free, and that is what is next for me.
And you brought a bunch of these tonight, yeah?
And I have some with me. If you'd like one, we give these out for free. Come see me over here. Would love to give you one. I don't have that many, but I do have some that I'd like to give you.
We got to make sure that, you know, you'll see clips of tonight's conversation on social media, and we'll make sure we tag Chris and his handle. Join his millions of followers on social media. You will not be disappointed. It's just an inspiring feed that is so uplifting and positive. And in a time when our world I'm not going to say our world. In a time in our country when we lack empathy, you are staring at the reason why we should be celebrating our amazing, beautiful place we call home. It's because of people like this. And these are the stories that we should be highlighting, not pushing a president out of the way at a World Cup celebration. Who gives a shit, right? At the end of the day, who cares? Follow this young man because he's absolutely brilliant. If you want one of these, we'll have some in the lobby. I like to end every conversation sort of the same. Monday's Dark and the Space is all about leaving it better than the way you found it. You clearly do that full-time, better than anybody I know. But what are some other organizations that are near and dear to your heart that you like to volunteer or donate financial funds? What are some causes that you like to support?
One that comes to mind is the Alzheimer's Association. We do a lot of work with them. We've done so many different events with them, and we're going to run the marathon this October in run the New York City Marathon with the Alzheimer's Association. So that is one that is very near and dear to my heart, and millions of families are affected by Alzheimer's and dementia, and it's one that I think about often.
Have you ever been to the Lou Ruvo Center for Brain Health downtown?
I haven't.
Listen, if you would allow me, Mr. Ruvo, Larry Ruvo, is one of my dear friends. His father passed of Alzheimer's, and he made it his mission to bring everything that is happening in downtown Vegas to Las Vegas. I would love to set up a meeting with you and him, because I think your story deserves to go to the moon and beyond. And what they are doing in downtown Las Vegas is second to none. They are finding things for brain health that are happening right here in our backyard. It is one of the greatest brain institutions on the planet. They told Mr. Ruvo, never happened. You're never gonna get doctors to come to Vegas. The best Alzheimer's doctors live and breathe in Vegas right now, and I wanna make that connection because you deserve to be down there with him. You are a unicorn, my brother, and I cannot thank you enough for being here.
I appreciate it.
Give it up for Chris Punsalan, everybody.
Thank you, guys.